to begin by acknowledging that we are holding this meeting and the District of Sooke is located on the territories of both the Sooke and Shawnee Nations. Council, I'll turn your attention to item number 3. There is an amendment to the presented agenda in that we actually have 2 delegations tonight, not just one. So I will put forward, and just for clarity, there's 2. They were just listed under a single one. So tonight we do have the Village Initiative and the Greater Victoria Rent Bank. Both items are being presented by the Community Social Planning Council staff, and they are 2 distinct programs that will be delivered as 2 separate delegations. The first one being the Village Initiative and the second one, the Greater Victoria Rent Bank. So on that note, the motion would be that the agenda for the November 24th regular meeting of council be adopted as amended, please. Moved by Councillor St. Pierre and seconded by Pearson. All those in favor, please. And that's unanimous. Meeting minutes here for adoption tonight, October 27, 2025, regular, November 6, 2025, special committee of the whole, November 10th, 2025, regular, November 17, 2025, committee of the whole. So a motion please by Councillor Beddoes and seconded by St. Pierre. Any questions or amendments? None. All those in favor, please. And that's carried unanimously. So I'll welcome up our first delegation tonight, which will be 5.1, and that is advancing child and youth well-being across the Sooke and the West Shore. And as noted, will be by the Community Social Planning. So thank you very much. We have 5 minutes on the timer for you. So when your presentation begins, we'll start the clock. Thank you for being with us tonight.
Thank you very much. It's Cindy Andrew. I'm Director of Community Partnerships with this regional collaborative network called the Village Initiative, of which the District of Sooke has been one of the very early adopters at a municipal government level. So kudos and congratulations. And I'm very excited to be here tonight to share an opportunity that is truly groundbreaking with regional support of mayors across the West Shore Sooke area. I'm joined tonight by Dr. Carol Fenton, Medical Health Officer for Island Health, and Dr. Shelley Cook, who is the Executive Director of the Social Planning Council. My part is very brief. It's basically over to them to more or less say, here's an opportunity that almost seems too good to be true, but the good news is it is true. And it is work, and sorry, I need my clicker. We have an opportunity, and in the 2 meetings we had of mayors from across, and in the case of Sooke, Councillor Bateman has been attending. This notion of we believe in this work, that we need to think, work regionally on shared priorities that lend themselves to a regional response, but there's also a need or a mechanism, a need for a mechanism to support that work. Hence the business case in front of you tonight. And I would be remiss to not give deep thanks and gratitude to Island Health for mobilizing over the summer in response to requests from the mayors to develop this proposal that's in front of you as part of tonight's conversation and deliberations as you move into your budget cycle. I won't spend any time on this aside from saying, well, many kids are doing just fine, many aren't, and there's work to do. And if you're curious about that, happy to fill you in later when we have more time in terms of what the local stats tell us. The upside is there are a lot of assets to build on. There's tremendous work going on across this region from Port Renfrew to View Royal. And I'm also excited to say that to share that the Sooke School District has said this role matters to us. We're at the table with mayors, and to quote our superintendent who said, I've never been in a room where there's so much power and influence in people who care about kids. And the district itself, and I want to acknowledge Board Chair Amanda Dowry here this evening, and many other Village Network members. If you could wave your hands, I'd love them to know you're in the audience with us, that basically have put $15,000 a year towards investing in this proposed role. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Dr. Fenton.
Thank you so much. Basically, can you hear me okay? I'm basically here to say that there's a lot of evidence for this kind of upstream investment, and it's a smart investment. In your business case, there will be an estimated return on investment, and I want to tell you that that is an underestimate because it is only a estimate of how much cost savings from the legal and various punitive costs that occur when youth and young adults are doing poorly mental health wise. What it doesn't account for is how much communities benefit when people are flourishing, when they're really advancing in their jobs, they're contributing to their community, they're supporting the people around them. And so it is really a smart investment, evidence-wise.
Wow, you moved right along there. Thank you. So
I think if it's possible, if we could request now for 3 to 5 minute extension.
Okay, yeah, next time use the microphone though.
Like
So
that
yes,
next time.
5 minutes by Councillor Bateman and seconded by Pearson. All those in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you. Go ahead, please.
I will move as quickly as I can. So we live in a regional world. Key systems that define our society operate at a regional scale: transit, education, healthcare. This is why complex issues like ensuring youth are healthy and thriving are best addressed at a regional scale that recognizes the interconnected, dynamic nature of the world we live in, and that what happens in one municipality has ripple effects across the region. For this reason, we need an adaptive, collaborative, coordinated approach to addressing child and youth well-being. The MLAT and proposed coordinator role is vital evidence-based component of this work. So I'm just going to touch on a few aspects of it. So it's really about mobilizing and harnessing action, collective energy across the region. So Community Social Planning Council can provide the backbone function and really think about us as really that engine driving the work. Good planning and coordination long-term does not happen off the side of someone's desk. A dedicated coordinator will keep things moving along. Good administrative support keeps people connected and communicating, pulling in existing and new partners to help secure additional funding, ensure that there is an evaluation framework that includes quantitative as well as qualitative data, and ensuring that the work of CSPC, including our other projects, of which you'll hear one tonight, is leveraged to the benefit of the work in the West Shore. Sooke. Thank you. So essentially, it's not just simply one person, it'll be the whole of the organization. We'll pull in additional staff and research as needed. And certainly a big part of this role is working with municipalities across the region to ensure that a collaborative approach is in place. Thanks, Cindy. I can move on. So in terms of evaluation, we'll be looking at both evaluation at a couple different levels. Think about that as administration and the cost effectiveness and efficacy of the work we're doing. We're also going to be looking at governance and ensuring that the functioning of the MLAT is based on operational needs and things are working well. We'll also be ensuring that the shared initiatives have an evaluation framework so that we're going to be sharing data, measurement techniques, as well as qualitative and quantitative data will come out of that. So including a cost benefit analysis. So I think that's an important piece for people to understand that when we're spending money, we're saving money in the long term. And we'll also be looking at how we are working regionally, as well as working with the province and others to ensure that we are aligned and incentivizing regional approaches. And that's certainly work that can happen at a provincial level. So in terms of governance and just oversight, we will really bring the full weight of the organization to this project. We are committed to supporting Sooke in the West Shore, as you know from our work in other areas that we have been talking to you about. We're certainly thrilled to be supporting this and believe that we can bring our expertise to the benefit of children and youth in Sooke West Shore. Thank you. We'll certainly invite some questions now.
If I may, I'm going to add, because we have 3 minutes,
Oh,
5 seconds
there
on
you
the
go.
clock, is what you didn't hear, but is embodied by some in the room this evening, is that the Village Initiative Network is comprised of an awful lot of organizations working tirelessly who have all said, we need to do this work differently. We need to work in a much more synergistic, less siloed way. We have tremendous resources we can bring to this work, but we alone can't do this. So the collaborative spirit that prevails is certainly a tremendous asset and will be mobilized as part and parcel of helping support this work, because no one organization, including the amazing organizations represented here tonight, can do all that's required. So that catalytic, coordinated kind of approach is really fundamental and won't happen off the sides of somebody's desk. Now for questions, please, and thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for being here, as well as for those that are involved from Sooke or other areas, but are here in support tonight as well. Thank you for taking the time. And I could see the various entities located within the business case that you provided. So thank you also for having that in advance. So council, just very briefly, just a question perhaps each, and if it's been asked, then you don't need to ask it again. Is there anything from anyone at this time? There is an ask in the report, but I also understand Councillor Bateman has a motion arising that'll fall to the end of the agenda. Councillor St. Pierre.
My question is actually, I mean, first of all, I think that's a great idea. I see a lot of parallels with essentially Food Policy Council, bringing people together, having coordination function. And we know that that kind of an entity needs some coordination. So good call, and that's great. But I'm curious, given that this is family and so on and so forth, why is this not going to the province? And if you're looking at all of the local governments, why not also the CRD if it's a regional? And I realize that it's not in their wheelhouse, but theoretically it's not in ours. But every one of those orders of government is actually paying for the costs of when kids fall through the cracks, when instead of actually flourishing, they don't. So I'm curious as to why could they not step up as well?
The village genesis was nonprofit organizations upon the invitation from the Sooke School District and Island Health to come to a room to say, or to come to a table, say, how do we keep up? And guess what? School district, you're not the only one growing. We all are. So it very much is a grassroots effort that I think lends itself to when you have a collaborative regional approach, investing as we are proposing, you have that much stronger an argument when you then go and look to the province and other levels of government to say, we're doing our part. And in fact, I have to say that, Chief Medical Health Officer for Island Health, which if she was here, she most certainly would say this is a good example of the kind of practice we need to see more of, and let's invest in it. Let's leverage it for those efforts. So I don't think any of us would dispute that this is more downloaded to what municipal and local nonprofit organizations are asked to do is sustainable. It's not, but at the same time, what can we do within our influence, and how do we do it better to optimize the precious resources, which includes advocacy kinds of campaigns? Is that helpful? Thank you.
Okay. Others, Councillor Beddoes?
Yeah, thank you very much for that presentation. I'm still haven't got my head wrapped around all of this yet, although I go to Councillor Bateman's request for $30,000 for the year and 45 for say.
Well, that's the found.
That's the Foundry. That's not this one. Okay, that's what
This
I'm
is
getting
separate.
confused. Okay, what was the ask here? I'm not entirely sure that dollar wise.
The ask is there's about a estimated 115,000 a year to support a regional
Okay.
coordinator role divided by the population of each of the respective communities. And so based on the breakout that we did on the last available census data is about 14K and change a year. And we proposed for an investment in 3 to 5 years, because very little happens that first year in comparison. So you got to give it some time.
Yeah, I'm sorry I was confused.
That's okay.
The two. And the other concern I have is that, we run into a lot of problems in Sooke here with having our people going to Langford for a lot of the services. And it frustrates us that because we're sort of lumped in with the CRD, it's okay to send people to Langford. But it's, it's a couple of hours round trip, and I guess $3 or $5 by bus fare. I don't know. So I do have some problems with that. I don't know if it's really a question as it a concern of mine. So I'm sure it'll come up when we have our discussion. But I see too many of the services for our young people are elsewhere, and I would like to see them a little bit closer to home. I'm not saying no to this proposal, but so that's a concern of mine. And the third one is we're going to go into a tax year coming up. And last year was a brutal one. We hit our residents with about 15%. And so it's going to be a lot of pressure on us to hold the line to keep our taxes down. I mean, if we go in that again this year, I think people would be really, really upset. So I know it's only 14,000, but those 14,000s add up. So I just want to make that perfectly clear to not just you, but anybody in the room that we have those concerns. So.
I think your concern about local services versus regional services is really valid, and it's a really important thing to embed into the evaluation as something to evaluate whether or not this was successful as an endeavor. So it's absolutely a risk of the investment, but there's also the ability to leverage all the resources that the other municipalities are putting in rather than trying to do it yourself. And so it is a risk benefit investment for sure. So risk benefit with some mitigation with that evaluation piece.
Yeah, I guess the thing is, you know, when I see, and sorry with confusion about the upcoming notice of motion, is, you know, if you've got 30,000 here, 12,000 here, 14,000 here, it really adds up. So I'm just saying, I'm going to look at it with a really heavy eye here to see if it's something that we can afford. But thank you for your presentation.
Councillor Pearson.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation, but more importantly, thank you for the work. So I'm going to lump three questions into one because you're good at answering questions. So, so it's about $1 per capita for the district of Sooke. That's kind of the asking.
There's a chart here
I
that,
saw that.
yeah, breaks it down by size, and then there's a whole formula.
Yep.
But yeah, it's about
So-
14,000.
So are there any in the province that's question number one, it's about $1 per capita. Are there any best practices in similar areas within the province? Like are you know, duplicating the model, or are anybody else envisioning this or going down this path? And then to date, have you done presentations to the neighboring municipalities, and what's the reactions been so far? And because we have 3 First Nations within our territory, are you also reaching out to them? So that's a lot of questions lumped into one. I said 3, but it was.
I know, nice trick there. And, you know, unmedicated ADHD, I have to jot down what the questions were so I don't lose it. So best practices, yes. And in fact, if you go back and have a close look at the proposal, you'll see that, and we picked one that rose to the fore, is actually out of Waterloo, Ontario, that this is not new work. This is work that others have done that have demonstrated benefits and have grown and invested in quite substantially. This is in a region now here locally where we have an awful lot of good work, but we also have a recognition that as our communities have grown in size, the investments around social planning, all of those other opportunities and services and supports growing communities need haven't kept pace. And so there are lots of models around in the country and frankly across the world. And nobody believes in, you know, recreating what we can learn from others. Other councils, yes, City of Colwood, and if Doug Kobayashi, Mayor Kobayashi was here tonight, he'd say, this is peanuts and it's a smart decision. City of Langford, we've made the presentation. I have ongoing communication to find a date with Mayor Tobias and his CAO in View Royal, and we're currently working to set up dates for the other municipalities or local governments in our region. Did I miss one of those other questions?
First
And
Nation.
the reception has been positive. Yeah. First Nations, thank you. That would be an area where I think all of us appreciate that there is much more work to be done. And I think what is also very helpful in this regard are the community relationships that exist. Also the opportunity with the Indigenous Education Council at the Sooke School District and the relationships with the nations through that capacity. Because again, the superintendent of the school district would tell you, much like Dr. Fenton, this is a good investment and we're in.
Okay,
Thank you.
Councillor Bateman.
Okay, thank you very much for being here tonight, all 3 of you. And yeah, it's going to be interesting as we work on this interesting point in time where there's leaning towards austerity in our government budgeting at all levels. At the same time, looking at social return on investment, which is a relatively new concept. And I think you were talking about a return on investment, right? So that is the conventional way of measuring it. And now we're looking at that very, very elevated idea that if you care for I'm not asking a question, am I?
Okay, thank you
Gotta
then,
answer the
Councillor
question.
Bateman.
The question would be, Ms. Cook, now you will be the employer, this coordinator. Would that individual be based in your office in Victoria, or would they be in the West Shore?
Could you, just the microphone?
Thank you. It would not make sense to have them based out of our office in Victoria. It would make a lot of sense to have them in the Sooke area or somewhere else in the West Shore. I think this is really about an opportunity to get ahead of issues and work collaboratively and really leverage the strength of the good work that's already happening. I said it in my presentation just around that we need to be working collaboratively to better the outcomes for youth, and this is an opportunity to do so. And for us, this is about how we're working with everyone in the community around the Village Initiative. This is a commitment from the organization. We are working in Sydney. We are working in every area of the capital region, and this is part of our work. And our work needs to be reflective of the communities it's existing in. And so for us, it makes zero sense for us to be supporting this function and having the work being centered in another community. Doesn't make sense.
And just quickly, in the Village Initiative, you have, I think, 70 organizations. And in the room tonight, we have Sea Park and WorkLinks, Sooke School District. What are some of the other Sooke organizations? Would you like to name check them just for our benefit?
Sure. I mean, I think Sooke Family Resource Society would be a good example, and their former executive director was there at the genesis of the village. And in fact, I love to quote her when she basically looked at the associate superintendent and said, "Hey, school district leadership, you're not the only ones experiencing growth. We need to work differently together." Right? So that was one of the very initial conversations. Seed a Tree is here tonight with Hermione's presence. You have many organizations. Let's take BGC, formerly known as Boys and Girls Club. Okay? That probably offers one of the most evidence-based, impactful programs for Sooke youth. And that relates to basically a wraparound program for your early leaver, your kids who are highly at risk. Okay? Working in partnership with the school district, identifying those kids, wrapping around them, leveraging who else in the community is doing what to support kids, and basically helping mobilize those forces to better support them. And I can tell you that that has had immense impact on those kids. And it has demonstrated not just the power of, but frankly, the necessity of organizations to do a better job of working together, which includes, by the way, putting some skin on the table. So I do want to come back for a second about the ROI, because honestly, I mean, we didn't touch on it tonight, but anywhere from 1 to 5 or 1 to 12 ratio in terms of investment. And you have a lot of organizations who, if their address isn't necessarily in Sooke, they're still working tirelessly to support Sooke. So there are probably others, but my aging brain is having a memory lapse right now.
I think there's a lot for us there. So thank you very much, because there is the business case that you have already provided lists that out. So in the essence of time, just thank you very much for your presentation tonight. And the notice of motion will consider under business arising later in tonight's agenda.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so now I'd like to invite our second delegation, which is 5.2, which is the Greater Victoria Rent Bank, please.
Good evening, Mayor and Council, and thank you for your time tonight. My name is Miranda Levert, and I'm a case manager with the Greater Victoria Rent Bank. I'm here today to speak about the impact our program has had in the community over the past year. So the data that I'll be sharing reflects the 12-month period from July 1st, 2024 to June 30th, 2025. Our program is funded through a combination of provincial funding, support from the Van City Community Foundation, and contributions from local municipalities. Municipal funding is used exclusively for loan capital and does not go towards operational costs. All right, so we provide interest-free loans for low to moderate income households who are facing temporary financial hardship in the Greater Victoria area. We're targeted towards those facing a one-time crisis, such as an unexpected illness, an urgent relocation, or a family emergency whose needs cannot be met by other financial assistance social programs. Through our loan program, we aim to provide housing stability, for at least 90 days, but take additional action to promote long-term sustainability. Our team has extensive knowledge on community resources, and we do our best to refer tenants to wraparound supports. So in this reporting period, we received 45 applications from Sooke residents, which is a 36.4% increase from the previous year. And when we talk about somebody's rent to income ratio, we're talking about the share of their income that's going towards their rent. For context, housing is typically considered affordable when it takes up 30% or less of a household's gross income. But the average applicant in Sooke is spending more than twice that, which reflects extreme core housing need. So during this reporting period, we provided a total of $31,417 in support through a combination of loans, grants, and ongoing subsidies. Ongoing support from municipalities has allowed us to leverage those additional subsidies and grants and ensure that we can provide people with the most appropriate support. So Sooke applicants are most commonly living with their families. We can see that 57.8% of Sooke applicants live in this sort of demographic, compared to only 37.3% across the other municipalities. Sooke's greater availability of larger housing and the community feel makes it a more viable option for families with children. And so we can see this reflected in our applicant demographics, where over half of our households in Sooke have children, and with 70% of those being single-parent households. We also see that around 1 in 10 applicants are experiencing some sort of violence at the time of application. And this could include intimate partner violence, financial abuse, intimidation, violence from a landlord or cohabitants, or abuse of seniors. Additionally, nearly 17% of tenants seeking support are awaiting government benefits. This often includes individuals who have fallen ill and are waiting for medical EI to begin, or those who have sustained a workplace injury and are waiting for their workers' compensation claim to be assessed. Sooke residents seeking support are among the most vulnerable groups. With our support, many can maintain their safe and stable housing in a time of crisis. In this reporting period, 32 people were directly impacted through our funding, including 13 children. This number does not include those we connected with external resources, such as housing supports through BC Housing or organizations like Pacifica, family programs, or even things like financial literacy support through the Credit Counseling Society. Many of these resources also offer remote support, which makes it much more accessible to Sooke residents. So we work closely with these partners and often coordinate services to ensure housing stability for challenges that are out of our scope. We recognize that tenants who reach out to us are often in difficult situations, and sharing personal and financial details can be very vulnerable. And so we try our best to create an environment that's judgment-free and safe for these individuals so that they know they can feel supported. All right, so before I wrap up, I just wanted to share some direct quotes from tenants who've been impacted by the Greater Victoria Rent Bank. One individual said, "Thank you again for your help and kindness. I'm extremely grateful to you and your organization for helping me to make ends meet and keeping me housed." Another said, "You went above and beyond to help me and literally saved me from having to live on the streets. For this, I will forever be grateful. Again, thank you from the bottom of my heart." Much of the feedback we receive centers around these feelings of relief and dignity. Many of the renters who come to us for support have already sought other options and have come up without any support. The Greater Victoria Rent Bank has served as an essential tool for homeless prevention since 2021. Through contributions from the BC government, Van City Community Foundation, and Greater Victoria municipalities, we've been able to only expand our impact and hope to continue providing this vital service for those at risk of homelessness. Thank you for your time and attention, and I'd like to open it up to any questions.
Okay, thank you. We usually don't have questions in the delegation section, but we did permit some with the previous ones. So I'll see if members of council have any questions briefly. Go ahead, Councillor St. Pierre.
Just a quick one. I'm curious about your funding model, given that it's a rent bank. The money gets returned at some point, one would assume. Is the fund growing? Is it able to do more eventually? I'm just curious about how that works, because it is a revolving fund, I'm assuming.
Yeah, that's a great question. So we try to operate on a cyclical funding model. However, we really try to make it accessible for people. So if someone is going through a second crisis or they're just having a rough time, we try to extend that payment and lower the amounts or provide deferrals. We just don't want to add any undue hardship. However, the other thing that we've been dealing with lately is that our demand is not keeping up. So we're getting progressively busier and busier. And so it can take up to 3 years to get those original loans back. And the increase in demand has just not kept up with the rate that we've been receiving funds back.
Thank you.
Anything else, Councillor Beddoes?
Yeah, that's very good. I really enjoyed your presentation, and thank you very much for that. I can imagine people with some pretty tough situations, but my question is basically, Councillor St. Pierre touched on it about repayment. What is your default rate with these? I'm sick these people. There are people too. It's the wrong word I use. But I was just sort of wondering. It's not really key to anything, but I'm just wondering from a interest perspective, how many people default on their loan,
Yeah, so I don't.
percentage wise?
Yeah, I don't have that number for Sooke specifically. For the BC Rent Bank, it ranges from around 55% to 70% successful repayments in any given payment period. And the Greater Victoria Rent Bank tends to hover around 60 to 65%. Now, this fluctuates up and down depending on the circumstances. So, for example, our repayment dipped down during the ongoing work strikes because a lot of individuals just lost their income. However, we base the repayment rate on individual payments. So we don't have the numbers for the percentage of total loans that are successfully paid off by the end of the period, if that makes sense.
Well, it does, and I appreciate those figures because quite frankly, 60 to 65% repayment to me is excellent considering what you're dealing with and who you're dealing with and their situation, because they're in this position to begin with because of real hardship. So yeah, I'm not unhappy with that number. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. We're not loan sharks in any sense as well. So we don't send things to collections or try to put anybody in a more difficult situation.
Councillor Bateman?
Very quick question. Do you have an ask for us tonight?
Yes, so we tend to request support that's equivalent to the amount that we give out. So anywhere between 25, 30,000 would be our ideal request. However, we would appreciate any support that you, Mayor and Council, are able to offer.
And of course, we'll need a much more complete package to make that kind of consideration in future. Yeah, okay, thank you.
Yes, absolutely. We do have lots of financial statements and other statistics that we can pull for you.
Well, thank you very much for your time with us today and your work that you are doing. I am in receipt of emails from residents that are feeling the pinch now through various reasons. And so I have shared on your information just to see if that may fit. Apparently does and doesn't, depending, and I won't go into the household's particulars on that, but do appreciate the work you're doing because people are unfortunately in challenging times. They have been for a while and it's been building over the years. So glad to know that there's some dignity and kindness. Thank you. It's needed.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for your time.
Okay. So we're going to move on into the agenda. Of course, those that were here to show support, this may be a good time. You can leave whenever you like, of course. You don't have to, though. We're always grateful for those that are in chambers. We will be moving into question and comment on the agenda very shortly. But first up will be the report of our Chief Administrative Officer. So we'll just let some folks maybe gather their things and then we'll move over to Ms. Gray. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Worship. Nothing further to add. Just wanted to highlight Wednesday, Municipal Hall will be closed for all-day staff training session. Emergency situations will still be dealt with, but as far as if somebody popped in today to pay a bill or something like that on Wednesday, the office will be closed for the day. And that's all I have for today.
Okay, thank you. I also see the new website is live and I know that staff is just working through any links that may not have transferred. So thank you very much for your work on all of that as well. And just the consistency even in email footers that I've noticed. So thank you for your help with all of that as well. Okay, we'll move on into our public question and comment period. So that's an item on the agenda for anyone here that is interested in speaking to council tonight. We just require your name and please just point out roughly which item you're speaking with and we will put 2 minutes on the clock for each speaker, please. Thank you. Need to turn that on. Thank you.
Sorry, you'd think I'd know by now. Veronica Pemberton Billing, I live in Sooke. You know, it's wonderful to be at the council meeting and see just everything that you have to deal with, and everything you receive. And I really do appreciate your work, notwithstanding my criticisms, which I'm going to criticize now. I'm going to go to item 12.2, the Municipal Economic Development Corporation motion to be put forward by Councillor St. Pierre. And this I found surprising, maybe even shocking, for several reasons. One is it flows out of the OCP, which hasn't passed yet. And so I have some concerns about councillors considering this motion on an OCP that is still up for public hearing about how open-minded they will be during the public hearing. That's the first thing. Secondly, this is about creating another level of government that is without scrutiny. It's a whole other bureaucracy. And I went through the guide to launching and maintaining a legal government corporation, and I recognize that this motion is for a feasibility study. But even that will require enormous, I assert, expense. I would be surprised after reading this, and I have a bit of a legal background, that staff is able to produce a feasibility report without legal expertise, financial expertise, business expertise. There are so many variations of a corporation that can be created. And so it's such an opportunity. I'm sorry, I do trust everyone, but it's such an opportunity for corruption. And all the way through, and it ends in that document, which council is welcome to read, that you need all three: financial, legal, business experts, in addition to in-house resources. So to prepare a feasibility study is expensive. And we're concerned about expenses.
Okay, thank you. I'll just comment that an Economic Development Commission was recommended in the 2010 OCP. Just for transparency, that it is something that has been inexistent in the past, maybe not in this form, but it is also recommended in the current OCP. Other speakers tonight?
Hi, I'm Tracy Clark, here from Sooke. I just wanted to second what Veronica Pemberton had said about the Municipal Economic Development Corporation. I think that it probably is not something that needs to be pursued right now in light of all the other things that have to be taken care of. I don't believe it falls within the bailiwick of the municipality here in Sooke, and the potential expenses that would be involved, as well as the legal issues, as Veronica said. And also with respect to the village and foundry delegations, I guess I have a comment in the form of a question, is that I haven't looked at their business cases or models, but to what extent I didn't hear are parents involved in these whole scenarios with these organizations dealing with children and their issues. And if there's stats or evidence that proves that Sooke needs this, would benefit from this, and what it looks like in the long term in terms of costs that Sooke would have to bear on these programs. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Ellen Lords, I just want to bring up again about in your minutes. You do not say who the public was that said anything and what they said. Doing a research in the minutes, there's nothing in there. It used to be the name of who the public was, what they said, and you could research it. Now there's nothing. So it's gone from okay to worse, and I don't know why. I brought it up enough times. And also, I wanted to talk to the Parks and Trails Plan, which is a part of the OCP, and now you're discussing it and it was not discussed before. And although you've already moved it to go to the OCP draft to go to public hearing. Page 85, action 8.6 says tree bylaw. Now we've had enough conversation about tree bylaws, no tree bylaws. The community has said over and over no, and yet there it is back in there. Also, Councillor Beddoes mentioned about costs, about the 15% tax increase. And when you look at the budget, there's no budget for the parks and trails, purchasing land, purchasing more parkland. And also in there, you've got environmental, all of the areas environmental. How can that be? And there's no studies been done to show what is environmental and what's not. The transportation plan also, it doesn't include the density that's proposed in the OCP. So there's nothing about our MOU with the Minister of Highways. So nothing's been done or nothing's included in that OCP or in the transportation plan that jives with the OCP. I mean, you have density, but you have no transportation plan that suits that. Time's up. There's just not enough time to say all the things that are in here that need to be addressed, but I can come back again.
Okay, thank you. Other speakers this evening? Is there anyone here for the first time, please? Thank you.
Good evening, Helen Ritz. I live in Sooke. A couple of questions, and I will say I wasn't at the last meeting, so maybe this was discussed, but I was hoping that there'll be a chance for public input on the Parks and Trails and the Transportation Master Plan at some point, even if it's just merely for educational purposes, like you did those drop-ins at the night market and stuff like that. And I know there's a lot of interest in the Parks and Trails Master Plan, and I think both have been about 5 years since they've really been front of the public. So I would love to see that happening, especially with all the changes and things aspirational things that might happen. Oh, also, I really like your new logo. It's got a really retro kind of national parks feel to it. It's kind of cool. And my other question was about Lot A. And again, I just skimmed this really quickly on the ferry, so I may be wrong here, but it said there'll be no property taxes on the affordable rental. And I just wondered if that was in alignment with earlier discussions. I couldn't, going back a couple of months ago, there was a big discussion about what affordable housing developments in town would get tax deductions and who wouldn't. So I was just curious, when I saw they have no property tax, I wasn't sure if that was an alignment. And also could we ask for community meeting space in a new building? We're really lacking that in town, especially with the library closing early. So it would be great if they could give us something like that. And maybe also some nonprofit storage units. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Ritz. I'll just answer your one question that the Parks and Trails and the Transportation Master Plan both came to Committee of the Whole last week. So that's why they're moving through the system to the consent agenda. So there was an opportunity for feedback at that time. I'll go to the other speaker that's here tonight. If you would like to come forward, please.
This is my first time speaking at the council, and I've only lived in Sooke for about a year.
Could we have your name, please?
My name is Sharon Nash, and I live at the corner of Drennan and the Sooke Road. And this is an observation more than a request, and a direction as to who I would approach about getting more information about how we could get a crosswalk at Drennan and the highway, or at least a slower speed limit as you approach from the Victoria area down by where the museum is. It's still a considerable speed limit at that. As you go through there, it doesn't drop to 50 till after you get halfway up the hill. And it is almost impossible for people to get across that street to go to the bus. And I've mentioned this to some of the people in the road department, and they said that some of the responsibility is with the province because it is related to the highway, and then after, and this is the after, as far as I'm concerned, about the sewer system has been all put in place. And I really think that it's important with that large complexes of apartment buildings down there. You can watch children barely being able to get across that road, and no cars will stop unless there's a directive. Almost you got to go flail your arms around and everything and that to do that. And I made a comment once that said to somebody, even a deer knows they can get across the street when there are white lines across it, but you cannot get anything to go across there properly. And for a year, I've gone back and forth before we became permanent residents there at an Airbnb, and it's impossible to get any movement out of that. So I'd like to see if there's some way that I can be involved or who to ask to see about getting a little bit better traffic flow in that area, because it's a dense populated area, and a lot of the people there are reliant on getting to the buses in order to get back and forth. And even as they come from groceries down from Sooke, you can see people just gunning to go, unless you actually, like, literally, I made a joke with my sister who is in the process of living here permanently. She puts on her, what she calls her crosswalk suit to come across there, a really bright jacket in order to get attention that you're trying to get across there. And then when the cars come out from that area, they have to more or less beat it, the band, to get out of there in order to get out there safely and stuff. And then they're not aware of pedestrians at that intersection. So that's my ask. I'd like to see if that could be put in the budget or somehow directed to the province, maybe make a public petition or something in order to just make that not just specifically to the council here in the city itself, but if the province needs to be involved, there's got to be some shared aspect of that we can get something done there. So
Okay, thank you very much for being with us tonight. It does touch into our transportation plan to an
Yes.
extent. The jurisdiction is fully under the province. However, we can take this up and raise it.
Thank
And when you see our MLA at various events, good opportunity to raise it with him directly.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, was that all the first time speakers here tonight? So I'll invite any second time speakers for a second time, and then we're going to move on with the business of the night.
It's still on, right? Yes. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to speak again. So this is about item 12.1. And this is the motion by Councillor Bateman for the Foundry request, which is over 5 years, and it's $210,000 over 5 years. And, you know, I do appreciate the compassion of each councillor. I do, but I appreciated what Councillor Beto said, which is we can't afford tax increases. It's been 36% since I moved here, which is under 3 years ago. It's 3 tax increases. A 10% increase, which I heard Councillor St. Pierre previously make, that we should get used to 10%, which is way above inflation. That means taxes double every 7 years. People, and throughout all the great things that people have offered, we're not showing any compassion for the homeowners. And I believe I read that there's 6,000 property assessments that go out, which makes it 6,000 families that are funding all of it. So we're not really there's only one source of funding, which is the property taxes, and it's a heavy onus on that. And I think we're not showing any compassion for the families that are struggling, and they are really struggling. And we talk about affordable housing all the time, but I assert that our provisions, including possibly a corporation, including everything in the OCP, which we're not talking about, but including everything now, is putting up taxes. And at some point, we have to say no. And I'll say one more thing about compassion. It's a valuable emotion, and thank God for human beings that have it. But it's not compassion when it's done with other people's money that is forced out of them. That is not compassion, and it's misguided. And I think we have to keep that in mind, is that everything that comes here.
We're at time. Thank you.
Actually, I have 3 more seconds. Oh, I went over. Okay.
You're over.
Sorry, I missed that. In any event, thank you for listening to me.
Okay, thank you.
Like the Four Musketeers. Um, I agree with Helen that there should
You'll
have been.
need to just.
Oh,
reintroduce
Ellen Lors.
yourself.
I agree with what Helen said in regard to the transportation plan and the parks plan not being, having public hearings for each of them separately, because they're both very, very important documents. The parks plan, I wasn't able to come to the last meeting because I had about a vertigo, which I hate. Anyway. In the transportation plan, for instance, no, let's go back to the parks plan. So the parks plan, for instance, the cost for the parks plan that's not been addressed. And, oh, I know what I want to say. It was the sidewalks. Always people ask for sidewalks, always. And yet we're making trails. And in our 2010 OCP, we had an RCMP officer in there, and he said, you know, the thing that policemen hate the most, and which I wanted to talk to the policemen about, is trails and parks, because that's where the crime happens. And yet people have been asking for sidewalks which run in the front of houses, so people feel safe to walk there. So I think that's something that should be addressed. And it's also very costly. You build a sidewalk out of cement, it lasts for 50, 100 years. You build a park or trail, it's maintenance forever. As we know what our costs are. And as Councillor Better said, we better watch our taxes. And the same with transportation. We never addressed the density. Yes, the time's up. I know, always the time's up. But how, you know, what does it matter? Because you're not, what I say or what anybody says is not addressed. It's not in the minutes. And it could be, I just want to say this for your clarification, is that when somebody brings something forward that you should know about, and it might be a legal liability in your case, if you know about it and it's not been addressed. And if it's not in the minutes, then who's responsible?
Thank you, Ms. Lurs. And just for all of your benefit, all of this is live on YouTube. All the videos are stored on our website. And so everyone can listen, and there's closed captioning, all of it available. So everyone can go in and listen to the views as many times as they like. Okay, so we'll carry on in tonight's agenda and move to our consent agenda, and that'll be that the following items on the consent agenda be adopted by consent. 8.2 correspondence, 8.3 report of the CAO, 8.4 Parks and Trails Master Plan midpoint review, 8.5 Transportation Master Plan midpoint review, and 8.6 Strategic Plan progress reporting. It's moved by Councillor Beddoes and seconded by Councillor St. Pierre. Any questions, comments? Councillor Pearson? Can you turn on your microphone?
Yeah. So can I have something removed from correspondence for discussion?
Yes, and then it'll go to the next meeting. So just let us know.
32Q.
32Q. Okay, from Mr. Brown?
Yes,
Okay.
that's the one.
Okay, 32Q will go to the next available agenda item. Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else from anyone? I'll call the question then. All in favor, please. And that's unanimous. Thank you. So when next we're in item 9, which is a rise in report. This is here for information that council rise in report on the following motions adopted on the October 27, 2025 in camera meeting. That council received for information the report entitled Ground Lease Agreement for Lot A 6671 Wadhams Way, and that council directs staff to proceed with the required public notice under section 26 of the Community Charter for the proposed disposition lease of land to Catalyst Community Development Society. So that takes us into item 10, land lease agreement for Lot A 6671 Wadhams Way, please. And I'll ask staff if there is a report first, please.
Yes, Mr. Marshall is just joining us remotely to present.
Yes, can you hear me, Council? And
yes, we can.
Oh,
Thank you for
okay.
joining us virtually tonight.
All right, thanks. Just for council, staff, and the public's information, this particular report is in relation to a ground lease agreement that is for Lot A, 667 Wadhams Way. This is the district-owned land on that where the library is located on Wadhams Way. So the motion before council is to give the mayor and chief administrative officer the authority to execute the ground lease agreement. The previous council action is that on October 27th, 2025 at the in-camera meeting, this ground lease was reviewed with council and discussed, and there was a motion to bring it forward, and that staff provide the public notification in the newspaper as per the requirements of Section 26 of the Community Charter. Those notices were put in the October 30th and November 6th issues of the Sooke Daily Mirror, and it's here at council today to be reviewed. As a little bit of a background for the particularly the public that may not have been a party to the history of this site, council did adopt a vision for this site back in 2019. That was sort of a conclusion of a charrette exercise that happened over a couple of years previously. The way that the vision portrayed this site was that there would be the library, which has now been built on the northwest corner of this site. There would be a seniors sort of mixed use building on the northeast quadrant of the site on Wadhams Way. That would be a mix of seniors affordable housing and a seniors/youth meeting place. The southwest corner of the site was seen as being the location of a future park. And the southeast corner, the one that we're looking at today, was looking to be a mixed use building with a health center on the ground floor and residential above. So right now we have a subdivision in the works for this site because presently the library is located on the northwest corner. That site has been subdivided off the original Lot A property. Right now, the remainder of the lot, the other 3 quadrants, are still in one lot. We have an application from Catalyst who we're looking to sign the lease agreement with to subdivide off the southeast corner of the lot. The proposal is to have a 6-story mixed-use building with approximately 6,500 square feet of a urgent patient care center on the ground floor, along with associated office and retail. And then above 5 stories of affordable residential accommodation with a total of 89 units in the 5 stories above. There is also an agreement that that health professionals that are working within the health center on the ground floor or in the offices below would have a priority of rental units on one of the floors of the residential above. The ground lease agreement is an agreement between the District of Sooke and Catalyst Development Society. The idea is that it would be a 63-year lease. Catalyst would not be paying. They would be they would lease the land and develop develop and construct the proposed development. They would not be paying any lease rate. They would be subleasing the ground floor to the Ministry of Health for the health center and to private offices and retail who would be in the associated space on the remainder of the ground floor. In terms of property taxes, as per one of the questions in the chance for the public to provide input, we do have a policy in place for the town center area that does allow exemptions for affordable housing from property taxes, and that's the case for the 5 stories above. For the ground floor with the health center and the associated commercial activity, There is an opportunity for them to apply for a exemption from property taxes, and so that would be something that council would have to assess on an annual basis. In terms of the termination of the lease, if the construction of the building is not commenced or being substantially completed within 2 years of the commencement date, the lease can be terminated. Catalyst would be responsible for the landscaping of the site and the maintaining of that landscaping around the site. The use of the building is as per I mentioned earlier. And in terms of next steps, so the Catalyst has, as I said, applied for the subdivision of the lot that we're presently talking about the lease for. We're in the final strokes of that subdivision application. It's should be approved in the next couple of weeks. And the next step beyond that would be to do the development permit. They've applied for the development permit. We have a completed application and fees associated with that. And we're looking to have that approved in approximately February of 2026. And the actual building permit would be processed after that. And we're looking at start of construction by June of 2026. The length of construction is estimated to be about 2 years. So the important thing about the signing of the this particular ground lease at this point in time is that once the ground lease has been signed, the Catalyst will then be able to finalize their sublease with the Ministry of Health for the Urgent Patient Care Center. So, and that's important. That sublease is important because that's when funds start being released for the ultimate construction of the health center. So that's just a summary of where we're at with this particular issue, and the recommendation is before you. Thank you very much. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Marshall. I'll put the resolution forward, and that is that council authorize the mayor and the chief administrative officer to execute the ground lease agreement between the District of Sooke and Catalyst Community Development Society for Lot A 66711 Adams Way. Moved by Councillor St. Pierre and seconded by Beddoes. And so I'll go to our mover and seconder. Go ahead, please, and then open it up to council.
At this point, I would really just like to thank Mr. Marshall and staff for actually getting it this far. I understand that it's been a huge undertaking with lots of representatives from various groups and a great deal of work and a lot of dominoes in place. And this is one of the necessary ones for us to actually move forward towards a community health center, which we desperately need. So thank you so much for all the work. That is more of a comment than a question, but that's.
Thank you, Councillor Beddoes.
Yes, thanks again. This has been going on for a number of years. I'm happy to see it's got to this point. We've given up a lot to get this, which I think we desperately need. But my question is about the tax exemption. I already screwed up my notes once tonight, so I want to get this clear. Because we did just pass things for this affordable or subsidized housing that it's phased in over 5 years. So how long does this tax exemption go for this particular project?
Yeah, through your worship, the tax, it's my understanding the tax exemption is indefinite. This isn't got a time frame on it for the affordable housing portion of the building.
And I guess that was part of the bargaining to get this project going, or is because I'm finding it a little bit alarming that, you know, here we are, two other groups or three other groups in this community, we're going to start collecting taxes over a 5-year period, and this one is exempt forever. I just have a little bit of a problem with that. Have we already locked into that? Or I guess we haven't, have we? Because we're signature.
Through your worship, the district does have a policy for developments within the town center that they have an opportunity for tax exemption for affordable housing, and so I'm not aware that it's something that is negotiated. It's a policy of the district at this point in time. And I guess if council wants to change that policy, then that's your prerogative.
Okay, so you're using existing rules and regulations about exempting. So then it'd be up to council to deal with them on an individual basis. I believe that's what you're saying. Is that correct? To the chair.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll direct it to staff and then our CAO will determine who to get that answer from. Just to our staff, there has been just an ask for further clarity. I know there is I can't remember the name of it. I'm trying to look up. It's sad. It has been in place though for quite some time, and I'm thinking back to 2010 maybe, and it was to stimulate a revitalization bylaw. Is that perhaps what it is?
Yeah, through your worship, to council. Yes, it's the bylaw 408, the town center revitalization bylaw. So that granted various exemptions to DCCs and taxes and et cetera, if they built certain housing that met certain targets, et cetera. So yeah, I believe the bylaw was adopted or got talked about in 2009. So that's the bylaw that overrules town center. So it's in a bylaw. So that would be up to council to direct staff to change that down the road if you would like to. Which would request probably a more detailed report because there's many moving pieces in this bylaw. Once you review it, it's not just this. There's
Okay, so yeah, I've just found it here. So first adopted in 2009, Sooke Town Center Revitalization Bylaw. There's been several amendments to it over the years. It was finally consolidated in 2014. And it is for tax exemption programs where not-for-profit housing, including supportive living housing, and then for-profit affordable rental housing, where affordable means the housing is subject to a covenant and housing agreement and so forth. So it does go through there. It has to have, this is all under lead, but there is obviously there's a full policy here in place that obviously has never been repealed. So that's what this falls under. Building permit, development cost charges. I think it's just, this is probably the first time any projects actually managed to become eligible for it because everything else is outside of the area. Or it's for profit, which is completely different. Does that answer that? Next question, Councillor Pearson.
Through the chair to Mr. Marshall, couple of questions and it's already been discussed on page 130, the property taxes. I didn't understand that, but I think I have a little bit of understanding, and the good news is we have a little bit of time for it. And I'm going to say it's clause, the one right below the property taxes, the termination of the lease. If construction of the building is not commenced or has been substantially completed within 2 years of the lease commencement date, the lease can be terminated. On the cross there, site contamination. If during construction Catalyst determines that the site is contaminated and needs to be remediated, the cost of this work will be the responsibility of the District of Sooke as the owner of the property. There is no indication that the site is contaminated, but it is a standard for the property owner to be responsible for any contamination taken on by the leasee. So then I would take us to go to page 148. Page 148 of the report today. 4.3. And it says termination of the lease on failure to construct. Subject to 4.6 and 17.2, Article 23, the commencement of construction has not taken place within 5 years of the lease agreement date, lease commencement date, or if the construction of the building is not substantially completed and is in accordance with the requirements of the section 4.1 within 3 years after the second anniversary of the lease. The leaser will have the option at any time thereafter to terminate this lease. That's us. And this lease will terminate. So kind of a little bit unclear between that one and then the second one on 4.6 that I wanted to raise on page 149 is unavoidable delays. And I think this is standard. I just want to know that we've had our legal counsel. I want to answer to 4.3, the termination that says 5 years, 2 years. That's sort of contradictory to each other. And then the last one, is on page 170 or page 163, sorry. Kind of some. At 17.2, the provisions will apply with respect to any mortgagee. No reentry, termination, or forfeiture of this lease by the lessor will be valid against the mortgagee who has filed with the lessor notice of the mortgage and specified an address for the notice in accordance with Article 25. Pretty powerful language in there. And page 170, these are just kind of points that I picked out. I read this whole thing today, by the way. Yeah. Definitions, environmental matters. Contaminants mean any pollutants. Contaminants, deleterious substances, underground or above ground tanks, asbestos materials, urea, formaldehyde, dangerous substances or goods, hazardous, corrosive, or toxic substances, special waste, or waste of any kind, or any other substance which is now or hereafter prohibited, controlled, or subject to environmental laws. So through the chair to Mr. Marshall, are we pretty confident with all these clauses? This is a pretty, I mean, I'm asking, has our legal counsel given us the approval on this? Well, how come it says 3 years or 2 years and then 5 years? Why is it contradictory?
Okay, we'll
So-
have Mr. Marshall clarify that. Thank you.
Yeah, through your worship. To start with, yes, we did get our municipal solicitors to review this in detail. We've been through about 4 iterations of this particular lease, going back and forth with the lawyers for Catalyst and the lawyers for the municipality. So it's been thoroughly vetted by both legal parties. In terms of the discrepancy between the 2 and the 5, I'd have to go back through the lease. I'm not sure if there's like whether that 5 years is specific to certain conditions that are different from the 2 years I was speaking to, or whether I got that wrong. So I'd have to clarify whether I got that wrong, or whether there's 2 different points in which the length of time is discussed in the lease.
Yeah, it sounded like a little bit of never plan on that 5-year one. And my last question is, what about the 5,000 square feet? Or is it evaporated?
No, so I'll get our staff to clarify that, because I think that's something that was also raised by a member of the public, is that we definitely are looking forward to a lease for the urgent primary patient care center. But what about the additional 5,000, and how do we move forward with that in determining a potential entity?
Through your worship, I'll start and see if Mr. Marshall wants to add anything. So the 5,000, this, entering into the lease was, step 1 of this. And, once, if council agrees to enter into this lease, then the next steps would be to work with, the, Catalyst, and as well, Ms. Scott, our community economic development officer, has a whole marketing plan tapped in to try and fill the remaining space on the ground floor with medical services is the first preference. And then from there, it's also on the radar, about the other community needs or potential municipal needs. But I believe the preference first was to try and get medical services co-located into the main floor of the building as the first step. If that doesn't seem to come to fruition, then I anticipate at Catalyst coming back to council with potential options of what would happen with the remaining space. But that hasn't actively happened publicly yet, because we're waiting for if council agrees to enter into this lease.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Pearson.
So because there's a blend of in-camera, and I guess we're rising and reporting tonight, and I want to, through the chair, can I ask the question about that additional space that was?
Just to be clear, we are only rising and reporting on this specific item. And so certain details are still in camera and are still being worked out.
Okay, and I appreciate that, because I kind of got that from our CAO. So if we vote to sign this agreement tonight, are we at risk for some of the other things that council is hoping for?
Uh,
In person.
Through your worship to Councillor Pearson, staff's opinion would be no. That's why staff is recommending council enter into this lease. It's been vetted by our lawyers. The contaminated sites is a very low risk. It's a risk for any land we own. So that would be a liability no matter what. It's not increased because Catalyst is now developing. It would be a risk for the district regardless. And the other, what was your, sorry, council person, I'm not sure what the other pieces were. As far as the terms go, we can kind of just confirm that language, but I believe it's if or clause 4.6 comes to in play, which is unusual circumstances, unavoidable delays, which then restarts the clock on certain things. And I mean, I think it's important to point out that the definition of building in here refers to the health center. So that is the top priority for, if that doesn't come, then basically that's the opportunity for Catalyst to present back in front of council and confirm what would you like to do with this space? Do you still want to proceed? Where are we going with this?
Okay, through the chair, thank you. And my understanding is that is, and always has been our priority, is the urgent primary care. And it just, I mean, the wording of this lease kind of, quite frankly, scares me. It doesn't look like it's guaranteed. That's my sense right at this moment. But again, I'm not we've had our legal vetted, so I'm confident through the legal process, but I have to raise these questions. And there was an additional space that isn't mentioned anymore.
Okay, no, I appreciate your concern. This has been a long-standing advocacy and a need in our community for a long time. It's sort of one of these things that when it actually happens, it's not exciting anymore because the anticipation or the work is I don't know. Anyway. There is though the case in terms of the uses under 6.1, except for the non-residential space in the building to be used for primary care services committed to by the Ministry of Health and for community health services and portions of the building, which the lesser and lessee agree in writing can be used for commercial use, mixed commercial use, and seniors youth meeting space and sublet, license or otherwise, both parties needing to agree. And so council in the district is one of those parties. And so in that case, the lessee is unable to progress to just lease to anybody. The lessor is the one that, we're in charge of who entertains into that, or whatever entity takes that space. There has to be mutual agreement there. And that use is one that is allowable. It is always awkward because we have risen and report on a big portion of this. And because there is a desire to get it out into the public realm with advertising, disposition, and all of that. So I can totally appreciate that. There are a lot of questions still in the community that we may not be able to answer at this particular moment in time. However, it has been going on for years. There has been effort through our staff to reach out to the local building community to get expressions of interest, to get somebody interested in building the health center based on the community charrette, the other work that's been taking place long since before the library even broke ground. And over the years, there's been several iterations of this, some almost getting there, falling apart for whatever reason. But now it seems that we finally, per this lease, have the ministry involved. BC Builds is involved. There's 3 ministries working on this. And so it's deemed to be a priority. So I'm grateful that it's finally here because we are falling dramatically behind with health services in our community. And trying to access urgent care for anyone who, unfortunately, in that situation, it's epic. If you don't have a doctor and you cannot get in, it's frightening. It's 11-hour wait in Vic General if you're lucky on a good day. So this has been pressing. A large portion of the necessary work has been picked up by our fire department, ambulance service, and even others, retired people. So we're doing our best to get there. In terms of contamination, this was in the library lease as well. It is boilerplate material. It is district land. And so I do hear what we're saying with that being risk, but our lawyers are on our side. They work for us and they vetted it. So I'm comfortable in proceeding with this and getting on with it. So then we can fill the other spaces. We do recognize that Ms. Scott does have a detailed plan, but as just so staff know, council wants to know what's going on with that space. We have pressure from our community and other needs that need to be addressed as well. So in that case, no final decision on the extra cannot be made without council's blessing. And I'm sure you've heard that from all of us, and it's there. So other questions or comments on this matter? Councillor Bateman.
Okay, so this is a 6-story mixed use. So one floor of the building, as you've stated, Mr. Marshall, is dedicated to healthcare workers. Now, you indicated that those healthcare workers would need to be working in the ground floor urgent patient care center. Is that clear within the lease?
Sorry, I may have spoken out of turn. Sorry, through your worship. I may have spoken out of turn there. I believe it's that they are healthcare workers as opposed to specific to the ground floor, but that they, and there will be an agreement between BC Builds and Catalyst that be followed up in the agreement. So I'm not sure exactly how they do it, whether it's getting a letter from the employer but there will have to be proof that the people who are in the dedicated rental accommodations are working with the health provider.
Okay, that's good news, because as the mayor was just saying, recruitment and retention is so critical right now. And there are multiple healthcare workers within the community. I think of the people at the Sooke shelter, for example, who also are struggling to find. So on the one floor of the building, how many housing units are on one floor?
Through your worship, it's 89 units total. I'm not sure of the exact number of units on each floor, but just about 15, I guess, units per floor.
Well, that's good news. So yeah, it's good to hear that Ms. Scott will have a marketing plan to fill these additional spaces. And I just repeat what those possibilities are: co-located primary care services, community health services, commercial uses, and seniors youth meeting place. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Anything else from members of council on the motion, please? I appreciate there's a lot there. Councillor St. Pierre?
I'll be brief. Like Councillor Pierce, I'm interested in seeing what will happen with the 5,000 square feet. And I'm hoping that at some point, I'm not sure if there's a place in the process for council to bring forward some of the various needs in the community, other than health, that would desperately need a space. I think a member of the public pointed out just, plain public space. How does that actually work though? Who pays for it? I think those conversations, if there's a time and space when the entire space doesn't get filled up with, different types of health functions, I would very much appreciate to be able to have a chance to input on that. I think so with the rest of council. Having said that, I think all of the table recognize that unless we actually agree to this, then there's nothing. And therefore we are encouraged by your legal and encouraged by practicality and the need for a community health center to say yes. And I'm sure we all will, but that's it. Thank you.
Okay, anything else? Go ahead, Councillor Beddoes.
Yeah, I just, through your worship, I'm still a little confused because we have discussed things in camera and I'm not really sure exactly what we can say here, but we did discuss at length that first floor and what is committed to the health center and what to do with the other space. And there was a plan forward. I don't imagine we can say anything here, but I assume staff has that all in hand.
They do, and they're hearing us.
Well, that's fine. And the other thing is that, I appreciate the other councilors bringing things forward, but I also appreciate that staff and our legal opinions have also recommended that this is okay. So we pay these people a tremendous amount of money and they're the experts and I'm not. So I have to take their word for it. So I'm happy to vote for this.
Thank you. Mr. Marshall, I see your hand is up.
Yeah, just to clarify, so I see a number of councillors have talked about 5,000 additional square feet. That was the original extra space that would have been available for rental, or rental commercial office associated medical space. But that was when we had a 10,000 square foot UPCC proposed. We now have a 6,545 square foot commitment. So the remaining ground floor, I believe that the ground floor is about 15,000 square feet. So we'd be looking at about 8,500 square feet of additional office and community space, however it ends up being apportioned, is what's left over. Just wanted to clarify that.
Okay, thank you. I think that lands actually better. There's more because we know of the pressing need for space in this community of all sorts. So thank you, Mr. Marshall. I appreciate that clarity. Okay, anything else from members of council on the motion? Go ahead, Councillor Pearson.
Yes, and I just for the record is that I'm asking questions based on when I read the agreement today. In no way, shape, or form am I not excited about having a healthcare center in our town that, you know, has been worked on by our mayor for 15 to 17 or 18 or 19 years now, whatever it's been, but it's been a long time, and it feels like we're getting ever closer. And there's, you know, yes, it's subject to change, and it just feels like a little bit of, I think sometimes, you know, we're anxious to get it signed. And I think that it feels like on the other side, they know we're anxious to get it signed as well. So there's some leverage there. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Anything else from anyone? No, I'll be excited when we're at the groundbreaking. I'll wait till then. Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor, please. And that's unanimous. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Marshall, and thank you, staff. I know this has been a lot of work to get to this point. 10.2, 2026 council meeting schedule. So here is where, yes, I think we've seen this all before. And this here is so that council approved the 2026 regular council meeting schedule as follows. January 12th, January 26th, February 9th, February 23rd, March 9th, March 23rd, April 13th and 27th, May 11th and May 25th, June 8th, June 22nd, July 13th, July 27th, September 8th, September 28th, October 5th. That'll be the last council meeting of this term, though we do have to advertise for the year. So then that puts November 22nd for the next inaugural meeting, November 9th, November 23rd, and December 7th. Moved by Councillor Bateman and seconded by Pearson. Any comments, Councillor Bateman?
Lots to look forward to.
And Councillor Pearson. Okay, it's all here for us. You can print it off. And okay, I'll call the question. All in favor, please. And that's unanimous as well. And as you know, special meetings are called as needed. The next part is the committee of the whole schedule. So that'll be that council approved the 2025 committee of the whole meeting schedule as follows. January 19th, February 17th, March 16th, April 20th, May 19th, June 15th, July 20th, September 21st. That'll be our last. Then it's November 16th and December 14th. Moved by Councillor Pearson and seconded by Councillor St. Pierre. Any comments? Questions? Nope. All good. All in favor, please. And that too is carried unanimously. Next up is 10.3. This is our deputy mayor schedule. So just to get something going, this schedule has been put in place because it also needs to be advertised. Of course, if you are aware that you may be away or something doesn't work, please just randomly mixed it up this year. So it'll be that council appoint the following councillors as deputy mayors for 2026. This obviously we can only go until October. January would be Councillor Herb Haldane, February to March, Councillor Tony St. Pierre, April, May, Councillor Kevin Pearson, June, July, Councillor Al Beddoes, August, Councillor Megan McMath, September, October, Councillor Jeff Bateman. Moved by Councillor Pearson and seconded by Councillor Beddoes. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Okay. Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried unanimously. I will share though, for some of you that May, June, July is often you will be on a bit of alert for wildfire. That always starts burning around that time of year. So thank you. I'm also potentially just working out some times where I'll be away in March, likely early January. I don't know, there's a hockey tournament, March potentially for FCM, and I may be out of country, and then possibly early July as well. But when all of that is confirmed, I'll let you know. Okay, thank you, everyone. Bylaws, number 11. So this here is for adoption. 11.1, that council adopt zoning amendment bylaw number 926-600-111, 2025, to amend the zoning of the subject property legally described as Lot 9, Section 10, Sooke District, Plan 5865, 2103 Townsend Road, from large lot residential R1 to town center apartment RM5. Moved by Councillor St. Pierre and seconded by Councillor Beddoes. All those in favor, please. That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Motions for which notice has been given. The first one is from Councillor Bateman, that council directs staff to include funding within the provisional 2026 to 30 financial plan in the amounts requested by Thrive Social Services in its letter of August the 12th, 2025 regarding multi-year operational support for Foundry, West Shore and Sooke. It's moved by Councillor Bateman. Do we have a seconder by Bateman? Or pardon me, St. Pierre. Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Bateman.
Well, I'm not clear on whether I should be motivating fully for this now. The request here is that this funding, these funding amounts, year 1, 30,000, years 2 to 5, 45, would go into the provisional financial plan for discussion when we are in budget process. But I'm happy to motivate now. And yeah, I just need some direction from the chair on that.
Well, I think at this point, because we've received the letter and I believe a presentation.
Yeah.
And that's what led to this particular moment. You could motivate that it be included, and then when it comes forward for budget and you see where it's at, you could motivate again. I mean, this is to get it over, like in this point tonight, it's just to, if I'm reading this right, is to have it show up at budget time.
Yeah.
And then when we see the budget in its entirety and we're looking at that, it'll either then be cemented, I suppose, or confirmed, but this is to move it to that stage.
Yeah.
So it's kind of both. You may as well start now.
Well, I'll start a little bit here. So we did hear from Foundry, from Kathy Easton and her colleague back on October 27th, I think it was. And the Foundry, of course, is a youth serving age 12 to 22, I believe. Ministry of Health funded operation that is currently operating in 16 communities across the province. There's 10 more being approved, and we're one of them, the West Shore and Sooke, very critically. Foundry will begin with, in this coming year, developing their Langford HQ. There's a hub and spoke model, so it's the hub. Sooke will have an office, and so will Port Renfrew. But the first thing to do is get Langford up and running. And of course, it will serve Sooke residents, Sooke young people in that location. I'm sure you all recall all the upsides and benefits of what the Foundry does. It does provide direct counseling services, referrals, a whole range of services for people who are in need and in kind of desperate straits. So we did see in the earlier presentation in that report, there are some very clear metrics on what's going on with our young people as Cindy Andrews said, there's a lot of kids who are just doing fine, thank you, but there are a growing number of them, as there are adults, who are dealing with anxiety, dealing with depression, dealing with isolation, dealing with substance abuse, a whole range of issues. And the key, as was explained earlier in this social return on investment, is that if you intervene at a particular moment in time, you can and redirect a life back onto a course that will be truly productive and beneficial for the individual, for the families, and for the community at large. So here comes the Foundry. The Foundry does have a significant amount of funding already from the ministry. They have where are those numbers, Jeff? Yeah, they get 1.5 million in capital development for the get-go, even though the anticipated cost for that Langford hub is $3 to $4 million, but it's a good start. And they will get 1.5 million in annual operational funding. This is still short of needs to actually develop programs and provide that kind of ongoing support. This kind of money gets the doors open and hires key staff. But Foundry is looking to municipalities on the West Shore and in Sooke to kick in. And what they've asked for in this this letter of August 12th is 30,000 in year one, 45,000 annually. Now, those numbers are, I would suggest, a starting bid, and that we as a council can measure this opening request against all the other needs in the community, the other ways in which we are supporting young people, for example, through a service agreement with the Sooke Family Resource Society, which does give that organization, I think, 30,000 a year for a youth services outreach program. So there is some overlap, and of course we have a very changing field. Will Sooke Family Resource run that program when the Foundry is established in Sooke? That I'm not sure. There would seem to be duplication there. But there are options. You know, we could give a percentage of that year one amount to. Pardon me.
I think you're moving a bit
far.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Enough's enough. Enough's enough.
Yeah, I think that's good, Councillor Bateman. Councillor St. Pierre.
So what I'd like to focus on here is the return on investment for this. So in this particular case, it's nice that the province is actually stepping up through the Ministry of Health. So unlike other areas where we're quite frankly out of our wheelhouse, because, you know, children's services should not necessarily be the responsibility of the District of Sooke. Having said that, the cost of policing, the cost of various other services that actually fall upon us when we have people that are not supported when they need it, do fall on our taxpayers. And so those additional costs will fall on us pretty soon and pretty immediately in the form of additional police officers and so on and so forth. I worked, as many know, in the downtown east side, and the amount of money that was wasted, as far as I was concerned, on the 9 stitches that could have been saved with a one in time is astonishing. There are millions and billions of dollars being spent when, if you actually catch people when they are at their most vulnerable, if you make sure that they have rent subsidies so they don't end up homeless, you don't have a homeless problem. The numbers earlier indicated 32 tens, 31,000. That means $1,000.
Okay, Councillor St. Pierre, what we're deciding is,
quickly, thank you very much.
do we include it in the budget deliberations or not?
Absolutely. Well, the motion, I'm going to support putting it in with the understanding, of course, that at that point it's up for grabs. But I want to just emphasize that this is a gift to future taxpayers. Okay. It costs now, but it costs pretty quickly additionally. And the taxpayers are always one who pay. It's just whether they want to pay a little bit more now or a lot more later.
Okay, thank you. I see that Councillor McMath has joined the line, so I'll go to you in just a moment. I have Councillor Beddoes next.
Yeah, let's bring all that in. I have a lot of problems with this. I'm sorry, it's the amounts there, and everything's hypothetical. It's the request is to bring it to the budget deliberation. which, you know, sort of I guess that's all right, but I just really tired of the Ministry of Health underfunding everything. And then the balance falls to us. And then the balance falls to these 6,000 homeowners in Sooke, which have to pay for this. And I understand that Councillor St. Pierre says about, you know, $1 spent now saves us 6 down the road. But I think a lot of people are really, really suffering at home, just trying to put groceries and pay their rent, and to commit even a portion of it to 30,000 the first year, and then the 2 to 5 is $45,000. I just find that too rich. I understand the need for these things, but once again, it's the Ministry of Health in the province that is not doing their job and expecting us to pick up everything. And unfortunately, then we buy into it. And as long as we keep doing this, they will keep downloading on us. So I don't mind dealing with it when the budget, but I really don't think it's something at this time, unless somebody can convince me otherwise, that'd be something that I would support. It's just too much, too rich. And I heard from a lot of people, they swallowed the 15% tax increase last time without much feedback, other they weren't very happy about it. And for us, we have to be really diligent this coming budget that we keep it at a manageable level. So I'm not going to support this.
Okay, thank you. Councillor McMath, welcome to the meeting.
Thank you. There's a couple car accidents, so I was delayed. Just for clarity, this is just to draft it as a potential in the budget. This is not a guarantee of funding, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, because I don't read it like that. So I just wanted to clarify, and then just wanted to move it along and call the question.
Okay, thank you. There's been an ask to call the question. Okay. I'm okay to move it along. Sorry, I know that you want me to call the question, but I'm going to speak first anyway, Councillor McMath, in that I do want an opportunity to hear and to understand more locally what is in place in Sooke. Is there a gap? Is there an opportunity where a local provider would be able to fill this ask? And in part, with our service agreement policy, we have to present that out as an ask and then invite interested parties to respond to that. In this case, it's the other way around. We're direct awarding. So I'm fine to move this and may support it at that time. But I just need an opportunity to learn more about what's happening on the ground. So on that, I will call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Councillor Beddoes is opposed. You're in favor, Councillor McMath? I wasn't looking at your screen, so I don't know.
Yeah, I was in favor.
Okay, perfect. Okay, thank you. We'll move on to our next notice of motion from Councillor St. Pierre. Whereas staff currently do not have the resources or capacity to undertake certain development work identified in the official community plan, and such work has limited interest to the private sector. And whereas the mandate of local government is constrained by the Community Charter and the Local Government Act, and whereas leading the establishment of a municipal development corporation is a stated recommendation of both the 2025 strategic plan and the 2021 community development strategic and action plan. Therefore, be it resolved that council directs staff to undertake a feasibility study on the mandate of a municipal economic development corporation with a mandate to support land acquisition and disposition strategies consistent with community priorities, advance business development opportunities, facilitate the development of affordable housing, pursue partnerships with local First Nations in the planning and implementation of initiatives, and that staff report back on the potential for affordable housing contribution funds to be allocated in support of such a corporation. So that has been provided by Councillor St. Pierre. Is there a seconder for it? Seconded by Councillor Bateman. Go ahead and speak to it, please.
Okay, so this has actually been a recommendation for a long time, and there's a reason for it. It was emphasized at UBSM by places like Whistler and Tofino that one of the reasons they can actually provide affordable housing and actually have a strong tourism economy is because they can actually, they've done these things. And the fact of the matter is local government does not have the jurisdictional tools or honestly the resources staff, and it's not actually fair to put the cost of affordable housing on taxpayers. We can't actually afford to provide tax exemption affordable housing. We can't afford really to do affordable housing ourselves. We just don't have the money and our taxpayers don't have the money. Having said that, we are in a position to basically help create a development corporation. And because they're doing development, they can actually be an income earning entity. Now, I understand that before the end of this term and so on and so forth, there isn't the time necessarily to engage in something of this nature at this point in time. And our strat meeting made that eminently clear. But I don't want to not motivate for this because it's something that in some ways, Lot A was a land acquisition that's allowed things like a library and a community health center. That's the sort of thing that a development corporation can do. We had to look high and low and partner with the province, with the BC Builds in order to get that health center. If we had a development corporation, we could have done it ourselves. We need a place for fine arts. We need a place for public meetings. We need a waterfront that's developed with places to go to, restaurants, and all that sort of thing. There's a vision the community has of what it wants to be. It's in the OCP. Everybody talks about it, and everybody wonders why it's not happening. And it's simply because the private sector can't make the kind of money it needs to safely. Having said that, the district isn't in a position, or an entity that's supported by the district is not in the position of having to make the same kind of money back super fast. If it's providing vast financial benefits to the entire community, if it's creating new revenue streams, new tax income that is not residential, then it's going to help all of us and the community become what it can become. This is something that should have happened years ago. But now that we've got an ECDev committee, and now that we have an ECDev officer, and now that UBCM is putting forward workshops and so on and so forth, promoting this sort of thing, I think we need to take a sober look at what do we want to do with this? And I understand it may not be possible right away, but by God, Sooke needs it.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Bateman.
Yeah, well, thank you, Councillor St. Pierre, for bringing this forward. It is a recommendation, a next recommendation in the strategic plan under community economic development. And it is within the action plan that was passed in 2021. Now, there's, as Councillor St. Pierre says, there's no shortage of things that our Gail Scott is undertaking at the moment. Including the employment land strategy, which it's interesting. I went back for reference to a presentation by the Nanaimo Prosperity Corporation, and they spoke to the previous CED committee chaired by Councillor Lajeunesse back in 2022, and that was a big city model. And as they stated in their slide deck, which I still have a copy of, there are many kinds of development organizations, third-party development organizations that are able to attract business and make things happen on, identify parcels of land and do the work. So I think I agree with Councillor St. Pierre that this is a longer game strategy. It would be good to get it onto the desk of Ms. Scott for future consideration on her long to-do list. I would be tempted to amend the motion to say a high-level feasibility study to ensure, because I know that if I with Google can create a high-level report pretty quickly, actually. Whether it's any use, I don't know. But yeah, so that's what I've got to say.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Beddoes, then McMath, please.
Yeah, through your worship to staff, I mean, this is an ask, but it's going to fall on staff to produce this. Can you give me an idea of what sort of resources would be needed to bring this off? I mean, this is paid staff that we pay now. Do we have the capacity to do this with all those other things we've shoveled at you in the last little while?
Through your worship to Councillor Beddoes, staff capacity to undertake this report currently does not exist. If this is supported by council, we would most likely, I would have to connect with Ms. Scott to find more details to answer this question more fully. But it would be a significant undertaking, as some members of the community stated as well. Like, this is a pretty fulsome initiative. I would potentially challenge Councillor Bateman that a high level summary of a feasibility study is maybe counterintuitive, because if you want to know if it's feasible, you need all the information. So if this is supported by council, I would suggest that staff report back with some more details on the feasibility of doing the feasibility study.
Okay, Councillor McMath, then Pearson.
The CAO just hit on one of my questions, which is staff bandwidth. And then I also had a question, is it possible that this is something that the MRDT could pay for?
Maybe we wouldn't be able to answer that right now, but I do know the first year of that has pretty much been dedicated. So it goes back to the capacity part, really.
And then, so as it stands now, theoretically, of course, I support it, but as the motion stands now, I won't be supporting it. What I would support is, should we have this be pushed up as a priority for staff to genuinely take a look at? It's that what in our strategic plan that is the high priority falls. So then we make the decision if that's something that we would like to do.
Okay, thank you, Councillor McMath. My understanding, like right now, we're going through the service. We're getting updates from every department. So I think when that opportunity, when we do hear from our economic development officer, that'll be an opportunity then to find out what has happened and what is being planned. So stay tuned for that. Councillor Pearson?
Yeah, I don't disagree with the intent of an economic development. We have an economic development committee, and I think, you know, it could land there for some fleshing out of where what would it entail. We just had a check-in with our strat plan. We have about 48 weeks until there's a new council in place. I think our plates are full as council, and I think our staff's plates are full. This is a good idea, but maybe it lays with a future council. It feels like time is ticking away, because it's going to be December in a week, which, you know, we're down. And then, you know, what are we going to do? We're going to have a report on a feasibility study that lands somewhere about May or April. And anyway, I don't want to be negative about it, because I think it's a great idea. Just, I think the timing is off for me personally.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to speak. I appreciate the effort that went into this motion and certainly the intent. It has been something that's been talked about, so it's not new. We did have an Economic Development Commission once upon a time. It doesn't exist anymore. But in terms of our current standing committee, its term expires in February. And that was established with the committees because by June, this council needs to wrap up its business. And with the health center being such a large piece, yes, part of that is coming forward into the open. There's other pieces. There's the budget, there's service, there's potentially a referendum question in and amongst other bits. There's a lot of tying up of loose ends and wrap up work that really needs to take place. I think this is a great idea to consider in the next term. It's almost like, here's something that we've learned. We do have the MRDT that'll come into effect, I guess, now. And where that lands and what the revenue is still a bit unknown. So when that actually picks up traction, more will be known. And that department itself is relatively new. It was fully volunteer run until recently. So now I'm not in support of this at this time. I think it's something that next term, you know, bring it to that council, if you're on that council, as a priority, because more will be known by then on the MRDT, on what type of committee structure works and doesn't work and why. and a lot of the work that is consuming this council right now will be completed, or at least in an almost complete state. So I appreciate your effort on this, Councillor St. Pierre. It's just not the right time. I'm not in support of another report when I know there is a queue up of reports right now. Councillor St. Pierre.
I really appreciate council's efforts to spare my feelings, given that we all knew based on our strat meeting that this was not going to fly. So much appreciation. No need to belabor the point, and please call the question. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. I'll call the question. All in favor, please. Councillor St. Pierre is in favor. Those opposed? That would be the rest of us. Thank you. Councillor Bateman, McMath, Pearson, Tate, and Beddoes. Okay.
Yeah.
We do have a notice of motion based on our earlier discussion, and that is that council during budget deliberations consider the inclusion of annual funding in the amount of $14,400 for 5 years starting April 1st, 2026 to cover the district's share of the salary of the village initiatives. The salary for the village initiatives proposed municipal leaders advisory team coordinator by Councillor Bateman.
That's a notice of motion for next time.
For next time. Yeah, so that's here to be read into the record. Items removed from consent, there are none. The correspondence will come to the next agenda. Council verbal reports. Councillor Beddoes, please.
I only have one that I can remember. Anyways, we had the groundbreaking for the skateboard park, which was terrific. We got on the front page of the paper as well, which was good to see. And I did an interview with CTV, and they flew a drone over while they were doing the work. It was fascinating to see the drone. I got a 3-second bite on the news, but more importantly, they did, thanks to our staff at Sea Park, gave me quite a lengthy statement to put out, and I just handed it to the reporter and then said my few words, and it was bang on. It made us all look pretty good, and I'm really excited about the project. So it was nice to be part of it. And the mayor was there with her pick. She didn't have a hard hat. I was going to bring her up on that, but yeah, it was the commission that was there, and yeah, it was kind of neat. It's nice to have those community marking events, and I look forward to the kids using that skateboard park.
Thank you. Councillor Pearson.
Yes. Things to report on Remembrance Day. I attended the ceremony down at the Legion. Yeah. Along with my fellow councillors and the mayor. I had my annual chili and sandwiches and chowder. The following weekend, I attended the Sooke Business Chamber of Commerce Business Excellence Awards, which we presented to the Sooke Food Bank on behalf of the volunteer organization. But there was many businesses there, well representative of new businesses, old businesses, and enthusiastic people that keep our commerce going in our town. And I think the winners, I don't know if I wanted to say all the winners there or not. Business of the Year, Daniel's Market. Artisanal, Kathy Hammond Art. Business to Business Service, Gadgetry Tech Services. Dining, India Delight Bistro and Bar. Health and Wellness, Coastal Roots. Hospitality, Point No Point. Manufacturing Industry, Bad Dog Brewing. New Business of the Year, Cafe Vasino. Nonprofit and Volunteer Services, Sooke Food Bank, which I made the presentation on behalf of the mayor. Personal Care, West Coast Aesthetics Studio, Rainforest and Spa. Pet Services, Sooke Veterinarian Hospital. Retail, The Artisan's Garden. Professional Services, Hub International. Trade, Skilled and Labor, Dumont Tires. And that rounds out the winners for 2025. It was an excellent event, hosted by our chamber. Well done, real social piece to it. $5 beers and hors d'oeuvres. Exactly. So there you go.
Thank you for attending on my behalf, Councillor Pearson. I was otherwise busy with family. Councillor Bateman.
Yeah, So I was planning to attend. I had my flu COVID shot the day before and could not make it out. So I'm glad you were there as a member of our Community Economic Development Committee. So thank you very much. So I did attend the CRD Environmental Services Committee meeting on November 19th. This was a lively meeting. There was the release of the release of the greenhouse gas emissions, which I find these numbers fascinating. The CRD overall is down 1% in total emissions since 2022. So that's good. They continue to edge down against the 2007 benchmark. Sooke is actually down 3%, which is good news because I was kind of dreading these numbers because in the previous two accountings, they're done every 2 years, we had jumped considerably. So I did ask the question of CRD staff of how accurate, what's the plus minus on these numbers? Because we went up a lot and now we've declined, which is great. And the declines generally are a result of heat pump uptake. 13% of BC homes now have heat pumps, and zero emission vehicle registrations. New registrations, I think something like 20% last year were zero emission of all new registrations. So those are good news, I think, as we seek our 50% aspirational goal in an unapproved official community plan. But that's another matter. Aspirational. There was also an anyway, I could go on as I do. Sooke Homelessness Coalition meeting met last week, our very small group, as we do 6 times a year. The Union Gospel Mission was the invited guests, and they've been working with the homeless in Vancouver's downtown east side since the 1940s, but they've launched a mobile service now. That's a super van that's packed with good stuff, and they go where they're needed. And they come out to Sooke and work with the Sooke shelter. So that's good news. The Sooke shelter's emergency weather shelter is now ready for the needed nights. It hasn't opened yet, but it will be undoubtedly with the winter coming. And CRD budget. I attended the committee of the whole back on October 30th, and the Sooke requisition lift in 2026 will be 5.1%. Now, this largely involves fixed costs through union contract raises and material costs. The board, interestingly, instituted a hiring freeze last spring, or in the spring of this year. And so there's I think there's some new water board. I don't know how many. I think there was 5? 2.
Well, I think they settled.
Settled on 2. Okay. JDF water distribution rates are going up 6.9%. The fees at Sea Park will increase by 5%. And these are the kind of increases to maintain the status quo. Okay. And on that front, that's the end.
The end. Thank you, Councillor Bateman, for attending that. I have nothing really to share other than to highlight what Councillor Beddoes raised about the skate park. There was confusion over the park. Having been in it now, I don't use a skateboard, so I sort of walk by and will watch with awe what young people are able to do. But having walked in it, the concrete was severely cracking to the point of dangerous. And over several years, yes, it's a skate park, yes, there's a risk. Sea Park had been patching and filling to the point where it was no longer sustainable to do that. You're basically throwing good money over a bad situation that is deteriorating and breaking. Every winter with freezing conditions, the concrete just completely splits apart. So it was unsafe for us to be a skateboard. Sea Park has and does take on an inherent amount of risk. It just got to the point where it was too risky. It's potentially with exposed rebar and the cracks that existed as it was. So yes, it was fenced off. Despite there was signs and effort that went missing. So there is a liability at stake. And then, of course, we learned that this is land that is leased from School District 62. It was in the Agricultural Land Reserve. It never did have that approval back in the day. So all of that needed to be corrected, of which the staff put their attention to. There wasn't an alternative approval process to borrow that was successful. And there was significant consultation with many users of the park, including those that helped vision and build the original park. They were invited back. Rotary was involved, Lions was involved, all of this Councillor Beddoes has spoken to, but I'm raising it now because there's a significant amount of disinformation online about it. All of the cement is being crushed at this moment and will be used to form the base for the next park, of which will be done over the winter months as weather permits. There is now a temporary park set up in Ravens Ridge Park. It takes up a portion of the park, not all of it, in the multi-sport box. So it's a section of where users are invited to enjoy from dusk to dawn. So it's something, it may not be the best, but it is temporary. This equipment was developed by the city of Calgary. We received it at no cost, so there is something, but it was all part of this contractor showing up with all that equipment. The two went hand in hand. So I'm grateful for the work, and they'll continue on, and we look forward to cutting the ribbon on this park in the future. And then the commission, as always, will go on to other work that it's continually doing to expand the resources there. I'll also just share at Transit this past week, there was a discussion about fares. The concession pass, which is a discounted pass, will remain at the same rate. I was in support of a slight increase. That vote did not pass because I'm wary that when rates are not looked at consistently, they receive significant jumps over time. Transit, I think, is a 10% rough forecast for 2026, which is an improvement from the 40% it was in years past. Now, the reason why there was a significant property tax increase in previous years is because they had safe restart funds. And when Transit was using safe restart funds, neither fares nor the tax requisition could increase while those funds were being used. So those funds are exhausted, but of course, everything else costs more. There's still the need for supply chain disruptions, which is significant for Transit, as well as all the staff needing to run the service, from dispatchers to bus drivers to everyone else, mechanics and the like. So that has all been resolved with Transit. But I am curious to hear from the community, as this is now advanced to the CRD board, around free transit for youth. So there was some coverage of the recent board decision. It's basically to receive a report that notes the implications and what it would take to implement free fare across the region for youth. In the past, I had voted against that because our youth don't have service. So it seemed superficial that you would pay for a transit pass that you have no bus to take. Many of our youth ride the bus after school, on weekends, on stats, in and out of Sooke and around Sooke, and there's no service. So when Transit put this report forward, there would be a higher demand in the core, which would result in an impact to service delivery out here. There would be strong uptake, as is proven, but that means service disruption or delay out this way where we desperately need more service. So to me, it's the case of we will never get improved service, and you'll be paying for a pass that you can't use. Try taking the bus on Easter Monday. It's not a stat, but it runs every 2 hours to the core. So, and we talked once at council about free transit, and most of us agreed we should just walk home because there won't be a bus to take us there. It would be faster to walk the whole distance. And that is the reality for young people in our community. So I think it benefits the urban areas, but not areas out where we are, where there is no service at all. I'd be curious to know from parents which young people take the bus from Sooke to Royal Bay Secondary, because I cannot figure out that route. And I know if you take it to Belmont, you're still walking a great distance to get to the school, and you will walk a great distance to get from your house to the bus. So I made a cheeky comment that I have enjoyed free transit with my son, but on the mainland where there is SkyTrain service, we simply do not have that here. So while this is going about the region, I'd be curious to learn a bit more about how residents here in Sooke, with the current system of buses, and how that works for residents. So I'll leave it at that. Councillor St. Pierre.
Just a very quick feel-good sort of thing, at least for me. Councillor Beddoes reminded me that we all went to Remembrance Day celebrations. I happened to meet with someone, and this was their first time doing Remembrance Day in Sooke. And we were waiting in the parking lot, and I almost had to say, you're going to love this, and you're not going to expect what you're going to see. Because of course, as usual, the streets were lined, and when we got there, hundreds of people, rain or shine. For some weird reason, the sun was shining, which was really, I didn't know what to do with that. Didn't know what to do with that one. But hundreds of people. And that just doesn't necessarily happen in other communities. So it's pretty special, and they were kind of blown away.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Beddoes. Well said, Councillor St. Pierre.
I just wanted to say on that alternate referendum for the Sea Park, there were 6 letters received against it. They had to get 10%, and 2 of them were disqualified because they were outside of the catchment area. So there was 4 against it, and that's why it passed such great ease. So it was good.
Thank you, Councillor Beddoes. And so just a reminder to members of council, the Christmas parade is on December 7th, the Sunday. And so we'll get details. I had it at the wrong day, and I'm like, we're having it in the week. That doesn't make any sense that it's on a weekday at 5 in the morning. But no, December 7th is a Sunday. So more information about where we should gather. But in the meantime, maybe find a holiday hat of some sort. It usually is quite cold, so be sure to bundle up on that day, but more to come. And probably need an umbrella. Okay, so on that note, I will call the question to adjourn, please. Moved by Councillor St. Pierre, seconded by Bateman. All those in favor? And that's unanimous. Thank you.